Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Demon Slayer. I can create my own breathing. Chapter 81. Gensoda waved his hand gently, and thick ice arms grew from the ground and gently hugged Agatsuma Zenitsu to protect him from subsequent harm. Gensoda waved again, and two chairs made of black ice appeared behind him. He put Zenitsu on the ice chair to rest, and he was going to sit on it and watch the battle between Hashibira Inosuke and Genmei. Unexpectedly, my butt was just next to the Schwanbing chair. Oh my god, why is it so cold? Gensoda stood up immediately, hiding the sudden change in expression on his face. With a flick of his fingertips, a layer of cushion with normal temperature was placed on the chair. Yuan Kang sat down satisfied. Hashibira Inosuke watched the fainted Agatsuma Zenitsu being pulled away by Gensoda, and he felt relieved. Despite his often harsh tone towards Agatsuma Zenitsu, he still cherishes such a playmate who is about the same age as himself. After all, he grew up in the mountains and didn't know what normal friendship was. Two white pillars hummed on his boar mask. Zenitsu killed an evil spirit, so I can't show weakness. A strong gust of wind rose beneath his feet. Hashibira Inosuke released all his power regarding the breath of the beast. Breath of the beast, one fang penetrating stab. Breath of the beast, three fangs tearing fangs. Breath of the beast, fang of four shattering slash. Hashibira Inosuke unleashes his raw power like a true beast. Dozens of white light blades continuously slashed at the Hades body, the blades carrying huge destructive power. Any contact with the Hades skin would inevitably cause a shower of blood to fall from the sky. The Hell Dog had a ferocious expression on his face, struggling to resist Hashibira Inosuke's attack. This wild boar is too powerful. He had to retreat in order to advance, and his huge body had to avoid its sharp edge under his sword. Immediately, seemingly discovering Hashibira Inosuke's flaw, the Hades caught the moment he was taking a breath, his eyes narrowed, and his sharp claws went straight into Hashibira Inosuke's abdomen. With an unparalleled blow, he wanted to disembowel him. Hashibira Inosuke was keenly aware of the Nichiren hound's movements, and he brought the two Nichiren blades together in front of him to prepare for the blow. The claws collided with the Nichiren blades, making a screeching sound. There was a sneer on the corner of the dog's mouth, and a thin vicious dog bit Inosuke's abdomen from where he couldn't see it. The vicious dog's steel-like teeth broke through the protection set up by Gensoda. Just when the vicious dog was about to feast on fresh flesh and blood, its mouth was filled with something, cold temperature and hard touch. That's an ice cube. The ice suddenly exploded and enveloped the vicious dog's body like freezing, turning it into an ice sculpture. Hey, who asked you to make a sneak attack? Old comrades don't have martial ethics, right? Sitting on the ice chair, Yuan Kangtai stretched out and felt puzzled by the actions of the villain. When Cerberus saw his subordinates dying like this, he almost jumped with hatred. He had been preparing for this move for a long time. He was about to succeed, but Yuan Kang blocked it too easily. Before the Hades had time to express his dissatisfaction, a huge force came from his chest, and then kicked him away. Baga, how dare you be distracted while fighting the great mountain king? Take my invincible kick. Inosuke inserted the hilt of the sword into the ground and kicked out in an extremely twisted posture. Then he spun his body like a whirlwind and drew out a pair of Nichiren blades to slash at the burly evil spirit next to him. The demons at the rear wanted to swarm in front of Inosuke's offensive, but they didn't dare to move at all. Because there was an evil ghost who just wanted to fight in a group, but was transformed into an ice sculpture by Gensoda with a wave of his hand and fell to the ground. This means that although they have many people, only a few are effective. An evil spirit that looked like a wolf spoke with a buzzing voice, "Let's all stand shoulder to shoulder. Are we going to let them humiliate us like this? Haven't you discovered that the boy has been using us as a whetstone?" Sharp claws stretched out from his thick wrists, and he decided to kill the boy. Instead of sitting back and waiting for death, it's better to be the first to take action. The werewolf jumped over the pig-headed boy and ran towards Gensoda quickly. He wanted to seize the opportunity. The evil ghosts who were with the werewolf dispersed immediately, and they decided to take this opportunity to gamble. They couldn't just sit back and wait for death. The evil ghosts are displaying their vampire magic wantonly. Some summoned a blood-red willow tree with branches like whips and a crown like a face. Some left and right hands were covered with jagged spikes, covered with white scales. Some hands were covered with thunder and lightning, gradually turning into the shape of weapons. There are actually beings among evil ghosts who can control elements, which reminded Gensauda of the evil ghosts in the water he met when he first came out of the mountain. Yuan Kang counted roughly, and there were actually 7 or 8 evil ghosts with blood ghost skills. Yuan Soda narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the so-called adult in their mouth was an extraordinary character. This made Yuan Soda a little interested. He stood up from the chair calmly, with a smile on his lips. In that case, how about playing with you? Yuan Kangtai opened his hands wantonly, as if embracing the whole world. I saw huge icicles rising from where he and Zenitsu were. The body that was not tall compared to the evil ghost looked down at this moment, like an emperor looking down at his ministers. Come on, let me see what you are capable of. Icicles condensed in the air and turned into the shape of Nichiren blades. There were not many in number, only 9. Gensauda counted them with his fingertips, and the Nichiren blades shot towards the many evil spirits on the ground like flying swords. The reactions of the evil ghosts of different shapes were quite consistent at this moment. The evil ghost that was still releasing its blood ghost skills stopped its movements and fled in all directions like a frightened beast in a herd. But how could the flying knife made by Yuan Soda be as they wished? The handle seemed to be equipped with eyes, and it shot at the ghosts under Yuan Soda's constant command. Times have changed. Are you still using traditional ghost-killing methods to kill ghosts? Yuan Kangtai Ice Thorn will do it for you. As the sound of pop sounded, the sharp thorns penetrated the body, and each evil ghost was pierced with a look of fear on its face. The ferocious lone wolf demon closest to General Soda was the first to be penetrated. They wanted to use their powerful recovery ability to recover, but the ice spikes piercing their bodies kept spreading, and then exploded. Until it covers their whole bodies. In an instant, dozens of ice sculptures stood there lifelike, like sculptures prepared for the ice and snow festival. Gensauda waved his hand to Inosuke, who was looking at him in surprise on the ground. It's a small skill, but it's not worth mentioning. You hurry up and deal with that dog. We still have to be on our way. The beautiful face under the mask of Hashibira Inosuke opened her mouth wide at this time. This can also be called a small skill. Is this the strength of Zu? Such invincible strength is what I want to have. Inosuke, you have to keep working hard. The fighting spirit in his heart continued to increase, and Hashibira Inosuke shouted excitedly. He threw the 2 Nichiren blades in his hand towards the Cerberus. With great speed, the 2 Nichiren blades rushed straight towards the Cerberus's head with a roaring sound. At this time, there was no thick fog to deflect his attacks, and the vicious dogs were able to resist the damage for him. His head was pierced by 1 Nichiren blades, and another cut off his neck. At this point, all the evil spirits who came to intercept the 3 people have lost their ability to fight. The tall icicles descended quietly, and Minamoto Soda walked down with Zenitsu. Looking at several ice sculptures on the field, Gensauda threw his soul-stealing sword towards Hashibira Inosuke. Cut their heads off with this knife. Minamoto Soda did not explain why he used this sword. But Inosuke was quite obedient and obediently picked up the soul-stealing knife, walked towards each of the ice sculptures, and cut off their heads one by one under the horrified eyes of the evil spirits. It's not that Inosuke's temper has improved. But since he grew up in the mountains, he has already understood the law of the jungle. Companions who are stronger than him will naturally admire him. As the heads were chopped off, several ice sculptures melted at this time, and the bodies of the evil spirits disappeared into thin air. After the smoke filled the place, there were mysterious beads. Inosuke picked up all the mysterious beads and sent them to Gensauda's hands with the soul-stealing knife. What is this? It smells pretty good. Hashibira Inosuke twitched the boar's nose and sniffed the mysterious bead. It's a good thing to eat. Minamoto Soda threw a bead high to Inosuke, and Inosuke caught it accurately and started chewing it. The Shuenju slipped into his mouth, and a warm current passed through his body. The physical strength from fighting evil spirits began to return at this moment, and he felt that his strength had also increased a little. See Gui, this little thing is actually so powerful. One more. Inosuke had a shy face and continued to ask for the mysterious beads from Gensauda, not caring at all. Minamoto Soda found it funny. He admired Inosuke's character of not hiding anything and speaking out what he wanted. He continued to throw one. Then he fed one to the unconscious Zenitsu. This is the only one, I can still use the rest. An ice lotus suddenly appeared in Gensouta's hand, and a flawless piece of ice appeared in his hand, and then turned into ice water and put it into Zenitsu's mouth. Zenitsu, who got the Xuanju, also woke up slowly. He was just a little out of strength, but he was able to kill the evil ghost alone in his first battle, which was a big achievement for him who was timid. Even under the care of Yuan Soda, he was proud enough. Ahem, did we win? The first thing Zenitsu did when he woke up was to look around and found that there was no one else on the field except Gensoda and Inosuke. A tragic victory. Yuan Soda stood up from the chair, and with a movement of his face, all the ice walls like the arena fell down and disappeared without a trace on the ground. Ignoring Zenitsu, who seemed confused, Gensouta strode towards the town. He wanted to see if there were any remaining evil spirits causing trouble in the town. Inosuke carried 2 swords on his shoulders and followed Gensoda. Zenitsu came to his senses and followed suit. Brother Yuan, how did we win? There are so many evil ghosts. Did you take action? Agatsuma Zenitsu's face shone with excitement. After all, he was just a newbie and actually killed a powerful evil spirit directly. If this news reached the ears of his grandfather, he would be very happy. Let's see if he dares to hang me up and beat me next time. Well, the evil spirit is too strong, so I couldn't help but take action, and then I won. Minamoto Soda looked incomprehensible. Omega, so that's it. Brother Yuan is so awesome. He deserves to be the fastest player to become a pillar. Facing Zenitsu's compliments, Gensoda accepted them all without changing his expression, but he was still a little happy in his heart. This was why he insisted on bringing 2 people with him. One is that he can hone the strength of the 2 of them, and the other is of course, pretending. It is a sin for Minamoto Soda not to be praised when he is showing off. Yuan Soda, you still have such a reputation, no wonder you are so strong. I will surpass you in the future. The corners of Hashibira Inosuke's mouth opened unconsciously under the mask. Yuan Soda could imagine his inner excitement. If you want to surpass me, you still have a long way to go. Keep it up, The small town here does not seem prosperous to Yuan Soda. It is a bit like the life in the countryside of Yuan Soda's previous life. This can't help but make Yuan Soda a little interested in the adults they talk about. After all, given his strength, it was easy to kill Sha Xian, and no matter how many of them came, the consequences would not change in any way. But he has experienced the strength of Shangxian. He doesn't know what the strength of the remaining 5 is. Each of them should be as scary as Doma. What's more, there is a huge mountain like the Ghost King Muzan weighing on them. It feels breathless. The sky was now clear, revealing a round moon. The thick fog Minamoto Soda had seen before was just the formation set by the evil ghost, not a celestial phenomenon. It seemed that they had put in a lot of effort to ambush Yuankang Tai and the others. But it's a pity that they don't understand Gensoda's strength at all, and mistakenly think that they have many ghosts. With a huge amount of recovery, they can give it a try. Minamoto Soda felt quite happy about this. After all, he didn't have to run so far to kill them one by one. At this time they reached the entrance of the town. But they walked on the road for so long without meeting anyone. Brother Genitsu, look, Agatsuma Zenitsu stopped at some point, pointing to a small building ahead. Suddenly, Minamoto Soda's pupils suddenly shrank. With his excellent vision and enhanced hearing, he discovered that the building was covered with dense bats. The bat's entire body was blood red, and its huge fleshy membranes formed the wings on both sides, blocking out the sky and the sun. They hang upside down on the floor, hooking their sharp claws to various places on the floor, which looks extremely scary. Yuan Soda even saw an unusual figure, a huge blood-red bat. Its whole body shows the characteristics of a human, with huge fleshy membranes forming the wings on both sides, blocking out the sky and the sun. No wonder Yuan Kangtai and the others walked for so long without seeing a single figure on the road. It turned out that the bat occupied the intersection of the village, making it impossible for people to get out. Seeing the blood stains on the ground and several broken arms and limbs, the anger in Gensouta's heart was about to burn. What he can't stand the most is the tragic scene appearing in front of him, which will make him feel his own powerlessness. With a swish sound, Agatsuma Zenitsu didn't even see what happened. One of the Nichiren blades shot at the huge bat at an extremely fast speed. At this time, the sleeping bat seemed to be keenly aware of the attack from the enemy. Almost instantly, he put away his wing membranes that covered the sky and the sun, narrowly dodging the blow. The sleeping little bat next to him also woke up at this moment. He opened his blood-red eyes densely and stared maliciously at the three people in front of him, as if he was going to attack at the next moment. How dare you humans disturb my king's rest time? Are you getting impatient? The huge bat spat out human words. Why do evil spirits always have this habit of killing people if they don't agree with each other? Zenitsu asked Gensoda softly. Who knows, this is good, it saves me from taking action. Yuan Kauta pressed the handle of the knife and said calmly, after all, they were human beings like us when they were alive. This time he didn't want the two of them to experience it. He was tired of these evil ghosts. Coupled with the countless bloodthirsty bats, Yuan Soda was worried that the bats would cause unexpected harm if he practiced again. For example, whether there is poison in bats' bodies. He had already experienced this on Tengshi Mountain, so he didn't want the two of them to make the same mistake he made. Yuan Soda's eyes are turning into ice blue, and the ice lotus in his dantian is moving to the extreme. A flash of cold light flashed across his body. Chill began to rise on his body. This time he will use the power of ice combined with his sword skills. After all, Nichiren blades are the real weapon for killing evil spirits. At this moment, the huge bat in front of him seemed to have discovered something, and screamed sharply. Minamoto Soda, it's you. Why are you here? There was a trace of fear in the evil ghost's mouth. Oh, how do you know me? Yuan Kangta also felt a little surprised, and the movements of his hands were inevitably a step slower. Why has his name spread so quickly now? Is this his fan? Gen Soda didn't stop what he was doing. Just when the Nichiren blades were activated to the extreme, the bat's huge body started to move. Yuan Kang was too cautious and did not attack, fearing that the bat might cause harm to the two people around him. After all, they didn't even pass Tang Qishan's selection, so they were still very weak. But something unexpected happened. An overwhelming amount of bats rose from the ground, and the bats that were supposed to be coming towards them were flying in different directions at this moment like birds and beasts scattered. The body of the giant bat also continued to shrink, hiding in the army of bats that covered the sky and the sun. Yuan Soda took a look and saw that there were about 3 waves of huge bat swarms leaving here. Agatsuma Zenitsu clenched his fists nervously. After all, he had never seen such a big battle. Hashibira Inosuke, on the other hand, pressed his nose in disdain and said, this stinky bat doesn't taste good. It's so annoying. Just get out of here. Zenitsu gently pulled Genso's pale green cloak. Aren't we going to chase him? Just let him run away like this. Yuan Soda narrowed his eyes. This change was obviously beyond his expectation. He never thought that this evil ghost would actually run away when it saw him. Did this behavior mean that he had entered the sight of Muzan, the Ghost King? This is not good news. Gen Soda handed the Demon Slayer rescue fireworks to the two of them. One person chases all the way. If you catch up with the real one, you will immediately release fireworks. Don't delay. I will rush over as quickly as possible. Yuan Soda's figure flashed a few times, and he immediately followed the wave of bats in the middle. Seeing Gen Soda's figure disappear in front of the two of them, Agatsuma Zenitsu felt a little less secure. He looked at Inosuke to ask him what to choose. Yuan Shi, I agree with Minamoto Soda's decision, but I must find that big bat first, and the pig suddenly advances. Hashibira Inosuke was like a black whirlwind, chasing in the left direction. He didn't care that Agatsuma Zenitsu looked at him for help. Oh, all of these are really reckless. Zenitsu shook his head and smiled bitterly, as if he was worried about the bravery of the two of them, and then his expression became determined. In this case, I can't let Brother Yuan down. Quote. Raging golden thunder and lightning covered his body, and Agatsuma Zenitsu caught up with him as fast as lightning. I can definitely catch up. He cheered himself up like this. Flying is a really difficult skill. Yuan Kang thought indifferently as he kept tossing and turning on the tree. After all, he only needs to flap his wings, and he needs to jump back and forth on the road like a monkey, quite like chasing Mrs. Jai. Got to find a way to slow them down. Frost-white ice began to appear on Minamoto Soda's body, and his eyes became indifferent at this moment. He stretched out his hand in the direction of the bat's flight. The cold voice gradually spit out, "Freeze." The elements between heaven and earth appeared directly in front of the bat group as if they were created out of thin air. Out of reach, their radar was ineffective, and with muffled sounds one after another, most of the bats hit the ice wall. It's now. Gen Soda's aura changed, and cruel purple lightning filled his pupils, like the god of thunder coming to the world. Gen Soda threw the Nichiren blades hard, and the target was the bat group that didn't react. Breath of thunder shape of picking covered by thousands of thunder. A sea of purple thunder blasted towards them under the guidance of Nichiren blades. Purple lightning with a destructive meaning wrapped around them like a snake, and soon the pungent smell of coke filled the night sky. Thousands of bats died under Yuan Soda's blow. The remaining pieces were scattered, leaving the center position and not suffering too much damage. But at this time, the bats dispersed, and Minamoto Soda did not see their leading evil spirit. What a pity. Yuan Kauta gently twisted the black bat fragments. It seems that I am not very lucky. At this moment, a bright red firework suddenly lit up in the night sky, and a signal flare representing the Demon Slayer squad's call for help was rushed into the sky. I don't know which kid is so lucky. Yuan Soda turned around and disappeared into the night sky, moving forward like a cluster of sharp arrows in the direction of the signal. Agatsuma Zenitsu's face is now very ugly. This is the biggest crisis he has encountered since he came out of the mountain. He didn't expect his luck to be so good. Any direction you choose is where the Bat Devil is hiding. The shrunken bat discovered at some point that the one chasing behind him was not Gensoda, and then exposed his fangs towards Zenitsu. Fortunately, Zenitsu has a strong desire to survive. When he found the huge bat looking at him with bloodthirsty murderous intent, he immediately raised the alarm. Hurry, Brother Minamoto, I won't be able to delay you any longer if you don't come. Agatsuma Zenitsu relied on the rapid breathing of thunder to move around in the woods to avoid the bat evil spirit Kue. Attack hard. The bat demon's blood-red pupils were constantly locked on Zenitsu's figure. Since you are deliberately seeking death, I will give you a ride. The bone spurs on the bat devil's body began to protrude, and the fangs in its mouth became addictive. It decided to deal with the not so strong kid in front of it first. The smell of fresh flesh and blood made him couldn't help but lick his tongue, and his excellent sense of smell allowed him to feel the attraction of Zenitsu's flesh and blood. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Today I'll let you see how powerful I am. The bats gathered in the direction of Zenitsu. Blood continued to flow from their mouths, and they gathered into a huge bat shadow. Vampire art bat blood body. It is equivalent to the appearance of a power that extends several times the values of the original Bat Devil. He rushed straight towards Zenitsu's yellow figure. Boy, you shouldn't be chasing me. The evil ghost bat's face was particularly ferocious, as if he was excited about the flesh and blood that was about to enter his mouth. Why do you have the strength to chase me? As he spoke, the blood image rushed towards Agatsuma Zenitsu like a ray of light, and the sharp claws made a blood seem to smash Agatsuma Zenitsu into pieces. Oops, I'm going to die. The yellow-haired boy kept flashing in the woods, with a look of horror on his face. I told you that you shouldn't show off your strength. I haven't even married a wife yet. I saw a shadow about to touch Zenitsu's back. In a flash of inspiration, Zenitsu used the thunder breath footwork to narrowly avoid the attack. Wait for me, Brother Minamoto, to chop you into 18 pieces, you stupid bat. Agatsuma Zenitsu panted, still trying to maintain his dignity. After all, in his opinion, when people come out to work, it is not only about their strength, but also about their background. I want to see which one is faster in my vampire skills or your companions. The joy on the face of the Bat Devil could hardly be suppressed. The crazy escape of the young man in front of him made him feel the pleasure brought by power again. It's now. Zenitsu's weak face, which was constantly moving aside to avoid attacks, suddenly became firm and determined, as if he had taken off his confusing disguise. This is the best time to attack. Breath of thunder shape of one thunderbolt flash 3 consecutive. Golden lightning suddenly covered Zenitsu's body, like a thunder god coming to the world. After paralyzing the bat demon, Zenitsu decided to take the initiative. The previous avoidance was all to distract the evil spirit and make him relax. Agatsuma Zenitsu believes that he does not have as strong an intuitive talent as Inosuke. He doesn't have the invincible strength like Gen Soda. Although he has achieved nothing in more than 10 years, he still has his own efforts. Golden hair rose without wind, the ground was cracked by the huge impact, yellow lightning rose, and the air was filled with the noisy sound of electric current striking. In the Bat Demon's field of vision, Agatsuma Zenitsu disappeared along with the lightning. The huge lightning made him feel heart palpitations. But that's it, the Bat Ghost's body stretched out again, and the Blood Shadow Bat made the same action, and blood continued to be released from the two figures. A huge blood ball rose up and surrounded the space like a field. Let's see how you can escape under my attack. The Bat Demon laughed. This move was his strongest ability. The field composed of countless human blood and resentful spirits was simply the best weapon to kill the ghost swordsman. Agatsuma Zenitsu is still flashing. But he couldn't find any place to move. Oh no, we must get out the knife quickly. Agatsuma Zenitsu gritted his teeth and slashed out with all his strength. Bang! There was a sound like hitting a drum head, and Agatsuma Zenitsu only felt a slimy touch. The Blood Shadow stood between him and the Bat Devil, and received the blow without any damage. The Bat Devil laughed without restraint. Poor little devil, put away your ridiculous sword moves. Go to hell. The bat waved its claws, and the blood-flowing arms instantly turned into sharp blood thorns, heading straight for Agatsuma Zenitsu. Become the material of my blood bat domain. Agatsuma Zenitsu's face was ugly. He had never thought that the evil spirits outside were so difficult to kill. It was obviously not so difficult when I was with Minamoto Soda just now. Why is this happening? Could it be that their power is so weak? They can only survive the attack of evil spirits by relying on the strength of pillars. Power. I need more power. Zenitsu clenched his fists. For the first time, he felt the importance of strength. He secretly made up his mind that if he could successfully survive the evil ghost this time, he would have to practice his thunder breathing to the extreme. Agatsuma Zenitsu struggled to resist the attack of the evil spirits. The yellow feather fabric on his body was torn and there were several wounds on his arms. Brother Yuan, come on, little brother, I really can't resist it anymore. At this time, it seemed that Agatsuma Zenitsu's shout was heard. A cold touch suddenly appeared in the blood cells that were generally stable in the field. Just when the Bat Devil was confused, the huge blood ball field suddenly turned into an ice ball under the action of the spike. A Nichiren blades that was as hot as a candle dragon passed through the blood sphere field and slashed straight at the bloody hand that was swinging at Agatsuma Zenitsu. With a crack sound, the bloody hand fell, bringing up a large amount of blood flowers. The knife was not finished yet, and it continued to extend upward along the arm. Under the wail of the Bat Devil, the blood shadow was continuously swallowed by the flames, and finally disappeared without a trace. Ah, my blood shadow, you! The furious eyes of the Bat Demon turned into fear the moment he saw Gen Soda. That's the fear that comes from deep within, from the depths of the cells. Breath of unspeakable fire. Muzen's nightmare. It is also the nightmare of many evil spirits. The Bat Devil, who had lost his greatest support, reacted immediately. Escape. Keep running. Escape to the adults. The Bat Demon only had this thought in his mind at this time. This young man who looked like a god of murder was not someone he could deal with. He remembers the location of the adults. You must escape there. It was too late but not too late. Having decided on his idea, the Bat Devil immediately controlled the bats around him and swarmed him. Let them rush towards the two people on the field regardless of life or death. Wanting to slow them down. Then scoot away like a real bat. Gen Soda ignored the evil spirit's escape and instead looked at Zenitsu. Well, I'm not too late. Looking at Zenitsu who still had a hint of determination on his face, Minamoto Soda said softly. Brother Genitsu. Agatsuma Zenitsu said in surprise, and then immediately shook his head. How could it be possible? It came just in time. I didn't suffer too much damage. Then he seemed to relax. Agatsuma Zenitsu stuck Nichiren blades into the ground, panting in small mouths. I tried to imitate the 6 thunder breaths you gave me, but this move consumes too much energy. If I didn't check it for a moment, the evil spirit would break through the defense. Agatsuma Zenitsu had a naive smile on his face and didn't care about the wounds on his body. That's good. You wait here for Inosuke and then follow my direction together. Minamoto Soda pressed the fiery red Nichiren blades that looked like tempering. This was the form of the Hiroshi sword that he learned during the battle with Doma. It can prevent the rebirth of evil spirits to the greatest extent. I'm going to send that bat off for the last time, and then take you back to training. You two will try to pass the selection at Fujise Mountain next time. Gensoda said to Zenitsu sitting on the ground. Thinking of Fujita Yamamoto Soda, he couldn't help but have a headache. The reason is that he directly killed the hundreds of years-old evil spirits brought by Master Linlong in that session. The evil ghosts that caused Tang Qishan to be unable to take action made the ghost swordsmen who went to participate in training feel enough life and death pressure. In this case, Yuan Soda looked at the Bat Demon's retreating figure and gradually had a bold idea in his mind. Little Bat, it's you who decides. In the blink of an eye, Gensoda's figure disappeared from sight, so fast that Zenitsu didn't even react. As expected of Hashira, I wonder when I will reach such strength. Agatsuma Zenitsu said eagerly as he watched Gensoda's leaving figure. In contrast to Minamoto Soda's calm eyes was the Bat Devil's panic. Different expressions reflect different levels of strength. But what Minamoto Soda couldn't figure out was why the Bat Demon knew his name, and didn't have any warlike intentions at all, so he ran away when he saw him. Maybe there are some important secrets. Yuan Soda's eyes suddenly hardened. If this was the case, this evil ghost would have to be captured alive. The Bat Devil's face was full of horror, as if he had encountered a ghost. I really don't know which of these two people is the evil spirit in whose heart. As for why he desperately wanted to escape from Yuan Zengta's clutches, the reason couldn't be simpler. He is Doma's evil spirit. Even when Gensoda killed Doma's Ice Buddha, he happened to return from outside. Having failed to complete the task, he was still thinking about how to explain his dereliction of duty to the adults. Pop. With a sound, the adult was gone. Yuan Soda didn't know how much damage his Vulcan-like sword had caused to the weak Bat Demon. The Bat Devil escaped for countless nights. During this period, I became even more cautious after I found out the name of Gensoda. Carefully avoiding the limelight, I dared to come out to look for food. Just when he was about to massacre the men, women, and children in the town, he saw the boy who killed Lord Doma again. And the strength seems to have reached a higher level. Why doesn't this scare him? So he thought he had made the best decision in his life. Escape. The last time I made such a right decision was when I joined Doma. Thinking back to those days, alas, the Bat Devil could only silently increase the speed of flapping its wings. As long as you can reach that place, you will definitely crush Gensoda to death easily. Thinking of this, the Bat Demon finally felt a little relieved. On the other side, Minamoto Soda, who was dressed in green, lazily carrying Nichiren blades, had been chasing for a long time. It's not that he can't catch up with the Bat Demon, but that he's not in a hurry. The initiative is in his hands anyway. And he was also curious about where the Bat Devil escaped. There might even be big fish. Gensoda's intuition has always been very accurate, and he vaguely felt that this time he might be able to meet someone he could not imagine. Until one person and one ghost traveled across half of the county and chased him to a large mountain. In the process, Gensoda also saw a simple town. He took a casual glance and found that there were no evil spirits plundering, and then he chased after it with confidence. During this period of time, he kept approaching the Bat Demon, but each time he simply swung a knife to prevent the Bat Demon from going so fast, but he would be thrown away by it every time. Minamoto Soda didn't care. The Bat Demon at least looked alive and well. This is good, as it will save you from having to catch another evil ghost and send it to Tengshi Mountain if you kill it. Two figures, one behind the other, cut across the sky. In the vast dense forest, the Bat Devil clearly has the advantage. But Yuan Soda still seemed to be at ease. After absorbing the mysterious beads dropped by Doma, General Soda's physical strength has grown to a terrifying state. Halfway up the mountain, Yuan Kang glanced faintly at the wooden house on the hillside, which looked a little lonely under the moonlight. Yuan Soda heard two heartbeats in the hut, one strong and the other old. Maybe it's the grandson and grandpa. That kid is quite a good swordsman. Yuan Kang thought lightly, but he didn't stop his pace. After all, the evil ghost wasn't stupid enough to want to take those two people as hostages. This can't help but make Yuan Kang a little impressed. It seems that not all evil spirits are brainless idiots. The two figures of Minamoto Soda and the Bat Demon passed through the wooden house, causing the sound of howling wind. At this time, the two people in the wooden house did not dare to express their anger. The boy with dark red hair asked the lean old man, "Grandpa Saburo, could it be said that the wind coming from outside is the evil ghost in your mouth?" Kamado Tanjiro was wrapped in a quilt, trembling a little. The lean old man, whom Tanjiro called Grandpa Saburo, lay flat on the ground, staring at the ceiling, with a touch of fear on his face. "Yes, I have heard this sound before, there are probably two evil spirits outside." Quote, "Grandpa Saburo, won't evil spirits come into the house?" Tanjiro's voice sounded very sincere, like a good boy asking the teacher questions during class. "No, and there will be dedicated ghost hunters to hunt ghosts. This is not something you, a kid, can worry about. I will turn out the lights in a while and go to sleep," Grandpa Saburo said calmly. After hearing this, Tanjiro, who was lying on the ground, stopped dwelling on the issue of evil spirits and closed his eyes obediently. Grandpa Saburo lost his family and lived alone, which seemed really lonely. "I will bring my younger brother and sister to play next time, hoping that it can comfort his soul a little." Thinking of this, Tanjiro's heart suddenly calmed down. The farewells from his brothers and sisters before leaving made him feel particularly warm in his heart. What kind of evil spirit might not exist? I really wish I could live in the mountains forever. But it's strange to say that my grandma seemed to have said this to me before she passed away. Just sleep like this, Tanjiro, and don't think about it too much. For some reason, Kamado Tanjiro's heart was always beating loudly, much faster than usual. This heartbeat made him unable to sleep peacefully. What happened tonight? What happened to me? Tanjiro squeezed the quilt tightly with both hands, and his mind was filled with the sound of the howling wind that just passed by. Did something fly past just now? Why does it sound so scary? The voice just now was like a thorn in Tanjiro's heart, and he vaguely felt that something bad was about to happen. No, Miduzi and the others are still on the mountain. Tanjiro sat up with sweat on his forehead. He couldn't convince himself that what he had just heard was just an illusion. "Grandpa Saburo, thank you very much for your hospitality, but I want to go home now." Tanjiro had a trace of anxiety on his face. The old man also sat up on the ground, with a serious look on his face. "Do you know what you are going to do? There was probably an evil ghost just now. Are you going out now to die?" The old man had a rare stern tone, as if he was really angry. "You are not allowed to go. If you go, you are likely to encounter evil spirits. It will be an irresistible disaster for you now." Tanjiro had already gotten out of the warm quilt. She put on the green plaid haori she had worn when she came here. "I'm sorry, Grandpa Sanlang, but I still have to go back and take a look," the young man said with determination on his face. "My family is still on the mountain." Seeing that Tanjiro had made up his mind, old man Saburo stopped trying to persuade him, but he still insisted on his own idea. "If you really want to leave, you must be careful along the way. If you encounter something you don't recognize, run away immediately. Did you hear me?" The old man knelt down and sat up, his deep eye sockets flickering under the candlelight. The forest under the moonlight seemed a little cold, but it seemed so insignificant to Yuan Soda, who possessed the magical power of Ice Lotus. He still followed the Bat Devil unhurriedly, clinging to his position. Maintain a position that just makes the evil spirit feel pressure, but does not overly oppress his nerves, so that he can continue to fly to his destination. Is there any place on this mountain that is worth risking his life to reach? Gensoda frowned. There were trees all around, which looked less eerie under the bright moonlight, quite like the place where he first lived. There should be people living in such a mountain. I wonder if it will be affected by evil spirits. Gensoda is now even more curious about the true identity of that adult. The Bat Devil ran there so desperately because there was a possibility of a high-level devil appearing, so he didn't make a second choice. Could it be that Doma has revived again? Will he come to me for revenge this time? Gensoda said with a smile on his lips. Now he is naturally qualified to face evil spirits calmly. Just like a fledgling warrior who slayed a tough dragon and gained huge wealth and popularity, Minamoto Soda had such confidence at this time. Then, let me put some more pressure on you. Purple lightning raged around Gensoda's body, like snakes constantly bursting out from the ground, wrapping around Gensoda's purple Nichiren blades. The noisy sound constantly oppressed the nerves of the Bat Devil in front of him. Feeling the power of thunder, the Bat Demon once again accelerated his speed. What a pity, he didn't even have time to eat the people in the town. He had agreed with the Hades to massacre the town together, but he was sleeping at the door obediently. Why is this Minamoto Soda chasing after him so closely? He still has strength after all this time. Is this the strength of Zu? The Bat Devil had a look of horror on his face, and the wings behind him were almost broken. It's almost there, I can already feel the Lord's breath. No one can stop me this time. I'm the fastest. The two figures continued to shuttle between the mountains, and the various withered and lonely tree trunks did not hinder the two of them. There was a slight drizzle in the sky, with a slight mist, and then the drizzle turned into small snow-white particles. Snowing. It was just the beginning of winter, and the temperature continued to drop, but Minamoto Soda didn't expect the snow to come so early. Just in time to see off the Bat Devil, Yuan Kang thought lightly. At this moment, the evil spirit flying rapidly in front of Minamoto Soda sped up again, flapping its wings as if desperately trying. The joy of the Bat Devil can be felt from a distance. At this time, the sharp-eyed Yuan Soda sensed the vitality of someone in front of him. There are really people on this mountain. Yuan Soda frowned. Even if such a steep mountaintop was ravaged by evil spirits, the Demon Slayer squad would not be able to rush over immediately. We need to let them find another place to live. Gensouda considers himself not a bad person, nor is he the kind of rude person who likes to interfere with other people's lives, but the risk factor of living in such deep mountains and old forests is quite high. He silently increased his speed. The Bat Devil landed and stopped in front of a well-decorated wooden house in a panic. He quickly shrunk his body until he was the size of a normal bat, then closed his claws. His humble attitude seemed to sink him into the dust. He was lying on the ground next to a man that Minamoto Soda had never seen before, wearing a black suit and a white hat on his head. Opposite the man was a middle-aged woman with a beautiful face, who was protecting an infant child. She had tears on her face and a fearful expression, as if she had seen something extraordinary. At her feet lay a girl covered in blood, with a hint of death on her lovely face. When Gensouda's eyes fell on the man for the first time, there seemed to be a pure darkness wrapped around the man's black suit. It was a terrifying power that Gensouda had never seen before. It was like an undoubted force passed from the man's body and extended to every corner of Yuan Zhengta's body. Suffocating feeling. Intense, huge fear that I have never felt before. Gensouda swallowed the shout that he wanted to ask. The man seemed to feel something. He turned back to look at Gensouda, who had stopped, his blood-red pupils carrying a coquettish aura. With just one glance, Minamoto Soda felt like he was drowning. His whole body seemed to be pressed to the ground by a powerful aura, making him unable to move. Yuan Soda's pupils shrank violently, and his body's warning function kept warning him. It was the fear that came out of every cell in his body, warning that the man in front of him had absolute power and could kill everything that came close to him. Yuan Soda saw absolute darkness in that look, a look that was indifferent to everything. With just one glance, Yuan Soda had already determined how lucky he was tonight. It's almost explosive. Even without anyone reminding him, Yuan Soda could guess the identity of the man in front of him. The king of evil spirits. Kibutsuji Muzan. Tonight is really unlucky. Yuan Soda smiled bitterly in his heart, but there was really no movement on his face. He knew that tonight would be the biggest test he had ever faced in this world. One wrong step and you will fall into the abyss called death. And those standing not far from Muzan should be the people who live on the mountain. Gensouda gritted his teeth, not knowing whether he could save the two people who were also in despair in this situation. The pressure did not overwhelm Yuan Soda, and an undoubted force burst out from Yuan Soda's not so tall body. Mixed breathing water speed thunder ice Wuji boundary. Gensouda directly used Doma's Ice Lotus ability to join the strongest field after the battle. The colorful spherical field directly covers the entire space, and a flowing light film envelopes Muzan in the distance. And the respectful voice of the Bat Devil over there sounded, "Sir, this damn human being is the culprit who defeated Lord Doma. May you show your power to a small extent and turn this boy who doesn't know the heights of the sky to ashes." Oh, Muzan's expression changed slightly after hearing this. In order to verify his conjecture about immortality, Muzin has traveled all over the country in recent years to find a suitable partner and reduce his control over other evil spirits. No wonder he felt that only a little bit of Doma's power had disappeared some time ago. Muzin also planned to take a look at Doma's condition after this experiment. Consider taking back his title. Was Doma actually defeated by this kid? Muzin's eyebrows suddenly stood up like knives, and the corners of his eyes were as crimson as blood, giving him a slight hint of solemnity. Just when the domain expanded to the limit, Yuan Soda's body changed with various postures, white steam rose from his body, and he finally adjusted his condition to the best. Waiting for a long time, Gensoda lowered his head and pressed the hilt of Nichiren blades, his fingers together and his waist lowered. The moment he grasped the hilt of the knife, a sharp sound suddenly resounded throughout the space. A strong elemental energy rose from the Nichiren blades. Every beat of Minamoto Soda's heart drove the elements on the blade. The change. Amidst these changes, the color of the Nichiren blades is also constantly flashing, from the initial aqua blue to purple electric color, then to pale and finally light blue. In the end, these colors turned into a crimson pattern engraved on the black Nichiren blades. The He-Dao that can cut off all evil in the world appears. Muzin's eyes fell on the red Nichiren blades in Gensoda's hand. This familiar feeling seemed to touch the depths of his heart. He could see that the blade had a temperature that was contrary to common sense. The originally casual and calm attitude turned into a deep fear at this moment. Muzin's eyes flashed with shock. This ability. Could it be that? At the next moment, the ground where Gensoda was standing collapsed, and the cracks in the ground that erupted with a loud noise sank like a landslide, and the entire ground looked like it had been crushed by a large crane. The air seemed to be torn apart by a huge object, making a deafening explosion. The highest realm time stops. In Muzin's pupils, he only had time to see Gensoda's eyes full of calm, running towards him with a determination to die. The ground where Muzin and the middle-aged woman were sitting sank downwards and a huge hole exploded, and the loud noise spread throughout the mountain. Muzin, who was supposed to be standing in the middle of the pit, appeared around the pit like a broken frame, and the dust from the explosion instantly filled the entire space. But around Muzin, not a speck of dust dared to pounce on his body against his orders. The Demon Slayer uniform on Gensoda's body collapsed at this moment. He gasped violently. In the eyes of others, his deadly knife seemed to have no effect at all. But he knew his purpose was accomplished. Take the children and return to the house quickly, Yuan Kaotai said in a deep voice to the frightened woman behind him. At this moment, the woman seemed to have come back to her senses, and she did not dare to cry. She held the child in her arms, holding the seemingly dead girl on the ground, and hid in the house. It turns out that Soda's goal is not Muzin himself, but to save the family behind him. Kamado Tanjiro, who was running rapidly on the mountain, heard the loud bang. Sweat continued to break out on his forehead and he ran towards home. What's going on? What's going on? What happened on the mountain? Mother, Rika, wait for me. With a pop, Tanjiro suddenly fell to the ground. The slightly wet soil smelled of snowflakes. Tanjiro, who was covered in soil, smelled a bloody smell on the soil. Oops. Tanjiro looked horrified. Something must have happened on the mountain. Tanjiro looked anxious, worried for his family on the mountain. And Tanjiro is not the only one who is anxious. When mother and son hid in the house and closed the door, Minamoto Soda secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Facing Muzin, he really didn't have the extra energy to take care of ordinary people, so leaving here was their best choice. At this moment, Gensoda has no worries. As long as Muzin doesn't act despicably on the mother and daughter in the room behind him, the initiative will be in his hands. In an instant, a lengthy breathing sound penetrated the world, and the huge sound made people think that all the oxygen in this space was sucked up in one breath. A colorful figure ran out at this moment, and his changes could not be observed with the naked eye. At this moment, General Soda's speed has reached the point where he can move at high speed without any borrowing points. The speed of sound can only pale in comparison to him. Gensoda in this state cannot be described by simple speed at all. Unbelievably, Ghost King Muzin's face didn't even show much emotion under Gensoda's amazing expressiveness. His constantly flashing pupils meant that even so, he could still capture Gensoda's figure. He reached out and gently took off his hat, and threw it to the trembling Bat Devil on the ground. To be honest, he found the right place when the devil escaped here, and his life was saved. Take my hat and get out of here and wait until I find you. The majestic voice sounded, and in the ears of the Bat Devil, these words were like the sound of nature. After getting the death-free ticket, the Bat Devil opened its wings and flew down the mountain. Facing Minamoto Soda, who was flying towards him in a hurry, Muzen's expression did not change at all, and he stretched out his right hand. The human right hand quickly began to change, and the bright red flash-like thorn whip turned into Muzen's right hand. A powerful and cold murderous aura rushed towards his face. It was the aura of death that Yuan Soda had never felt before. No, we can't charge anymore, and we must not run into Muzen's thorn whip. Gensoda decisively gave up his forward stance while he was on the attack, and the sudden stop made his body feel a little unbearable. A trace of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, and he finally stopped. At this time, the place where Gensoda was about to arrive was shrouded in smoke and explosions. He looked down, but saw nothing. I only felt the strong malice and cold gaze coming towards my face. The spiked whip swung towards Gensoda with a huge force. Gensoda could only use Nichiren blades to avoid it. This blow. A huge force was transmitted from the sword to Minamoto Soda's body. Minamoto Soda always thought that his strength was very strong, but compared with this blow, it seemed a bit insignificant. Gensoda's figure flew sideways, and did not stop until he hit a dead tree and broke the trunk. Muzen, who just casually completed the blow, reached out and flicked the dust off his body, his face full of cold killing intent. Gensoda had no expression on his face, swallowed a mouthful of blood, and tried hard to stand up. The moment he stood up, a sharp explosion sounded from his body, and a purple thunderbolt as thick as a horse came from his body. Rise up. As if feeling Yuan Kang Tai's anger, the gloomy sky also made a dull sound at this moment. Then the clouds rolled in and heavy snow fell to the ground like water. Branch-shaped lightnings are constantly dense in the sky, like angels from the sky seeming to punish the evil in the world. Thunder booms. Just like the tempered Hidao visibly lit up under the blessing of thunder and lightning, some snowflakes kept falling on the Nichiren blades, and then melted by the terrifying temperature to make a zizzling sound. Yuan Soda's toes dropped slightly, and the ground cracked like a meteorite hitting it, and the cracks continued to extend. Gensoda rushed towards Muzen like a hunting falcon, and the sound of branch lightning that had just flashed in the sky reached the earth at this moment. Boom, boom. The sound was accompanied by a purple lightning bolt. The sky thunder just hit the Nichiren blades in Gensoda's hand. The extremely violent power was poured into the long and narrow Nichiren blades, and the originally brilliant Hidao seemed to come alive at this moment. The He sword carrying the power of thunder and lightning made a squeaking sound, which seemed to remind Yuan Kangta that if the sword did not strike out, the blade would be broken by this violent force. Gensoda took a deep breath, with only Muzen in his indifferent pupils. Gensoda ignored what Muzen was thinking, went straight to Muzen's head, and swung the knife. Breath of Thunder Type 2 God of Punishment Thunder Sky Thunder version. The lightning in the sky wandered above the black silk clouds, seeming to reflect the sword and becoming more powerful. Thunder roared, purple lightning intertwined, and the momentum even overshadowed the explosion that sounded in the air. Facing the knife, Muzen put away his usual careless attitude. The 4 thorn whips behind his back pierced Muzen's carefully prepared black suit. The blood-red, thick, evil thorn whips surrounded Muzen's front and tried to block the knife. Boom! The Hidao with the full power of thunder and lightning sliced Muzen's thorn whip like tofu. The moment the stabbing whip, as thick as a jade pillar, made contact with the blade, it made a harsh sound, and then turned into a black carbon shape. Hidao easily broke through Muzen's defense and then slashed towards Muzen's body. It was like I had once again come into contact with an outlet where I could vent. In Muzen's shocked eyes, violent thunder power surged into Muzen's body. The huge energy had a paralyzing effect, making Muzen's face reveal a trace of bone-deep pain. As the ancestor of evil spirits, he hasn't felt this kind of pain for an unknown amount of time. At this moment, Muzen directly matched Minamoto Soda's figure with the terrifying man deep in his memory. A huge gash was opened in the abdomen by the endless thunder and lightning, but it healed immediately the next moment, as if nothing happened. Hidao continued to move forward until it split Muzen's body in two. Yuan Soda's figure flickered again, still protecting him in front of the old wooden house, but the feeling was different from the first. Gensoda's forehead was already covered with sweat. This sword, which contained the power of the real thunder, directly caused powerful damage to Gensoda that he had not expected. But what he didn't expect was Muzin's almost bug-like terrifying regeneration ability. Is this the ancestor of evil spirits? Yuan Kangta's heart sank. He knew that the sword strike just now belonged to the right time, place, and right person, and even so, it still consumed a lot of his physical strength. With such a high-intensity sword, even if there is a group of sluts in front of him, Minamoto Soda can definitely kill them all. But Muzin's body recovered immediately after being struck by the knife. This is the difference. Yuan Soda's face looked extremely heavy. The strength of Ghost King Muzin far exceeded his imagination, and his terrifying recovery ability was a strength he had never experienced before. Gensoda felt that no matter how many times he slashed at Ghost King Muzin, he would not be fatally injured. If it doesn't work, we have to think of other ways. Gensoda's arms trembled slightly, which was a sign of weakness. The power of thunder cannot be controlled by anyone. Under the seemingly glamorous appearance, Minamoto Soda is not as relaxed as he imagined. Oh, is this all you have? Muzin's tone was slightly sarcastic, as if he felt a little sorry for Minamoto Soda's strength. After experiencing the initial shock, Muzin suffered a powerful blow from Yuan Kangta, but the damage he received was not as severe as expected. It seems that he is not a descendant of that man. Muzin breathed a sigh of relief. This was not because he, the king of ghosts, was afraid. It was because the ghost swordsman he met 500 years ago was too powerful. Muzin, who was at the peak of his strength and full of confidence, was directly shattered by the ghost swordsman named Genichi Sukuni. Along with it, his unparalleled confidence was shattered. Since the worst outcome has not occurred, there is a lot of room for maneuver. Muzin's pale fingers were slightly pressed together, and a pink thorn whip grew out from where it passed through the spine, waving continuously in the air like a headless snake, showing their momentum. Since you only have this strength, you'd better die. Muzin waved his hand, and the thorn whip behind him went straight towards Gensoda, who was recovering his strength. Gensoda smiled and silently expanded the area again. Did anyone say you would get beaten if you spoke like this? When this sentence was finished, Minamoto Soda had disappeared from the ground, passing by Muzin, and looked back at Muzin's pale side face indifferently. The Nichiren blades once again carried an electric current symbolizing danger, and they slashed diagonally towards Muzin's head. Yuan Kang was too hands-on. Muzin retracted the whip instantly and swung it at Gensoda, but it missed. At the same time, the sound of footsteps and the sound of muscle tearing sounded around him. Minamoto Soda's figure disappeared again, but the suit on Muzin's back was torn and flesh was flying, revealing a huge bloody mouth with bone deep visible. This knife hit Muzin again. But the flesh and blood on Muzin's body seemed to have come to life and was restored again, and his smooth back seemed to have experienced a new life. Hot, burning pain rose up in Muzin's back. Although it only passed away briefly, the blow had already made him feel very bad. Gensoda stood 10 meters away from Muzin, quietly wiping his sweat. The blood above the Nichiren blades in his hands was evaporated by the intense heat. The so-called Ghost King is nothing more than that in my opinion. You should know that you can't keep up with my speed now. I may not be able to kill you in 1, 2, or dozens of fights, but if I try too many times, I can always cut off your head and take it to the Demon Slayer squad. What a coincidence. Muzin also showed a charming smile. Some people from the Demon Slayer squad have said this to me before, but hundreds of years have passed, and now I am the only one standing in front of you, and they have long since transformed into for dry bones to disappear into the dust of history. A hint of anger flashed deep in Yuan Soda's eyes, but he did not answer Muzin's words. It's just that the colors in the eyes are constantly merging, gradually turning into the purest flame. Let me see what kind of monster you are. The red lotus-like flames in Yuan Soda's eyes were hot and boiling. The next moment, he disappeared from Muzin's sight. The white smoke dissipating around me seemed to merge with the falling snowflakes in the sky. At this moment, before Muzin's pupils could shrink, 5 explosions swept through his eyes. That was proof that the sound of the knife broke through the speed of sound. Muzin's thorn whip is howling in the wind. It is the whistling sound of being cut down after rapid speed. A fiery red figure stood next to Muzin, with the purest color of fire in his eyes, and white steam sprayed out from his nostrils, evaporating all the snowflakes falling on his body. Gensoda once again actively entered the state of breath of fire. In this state, all the cells in his body seemed to be breathing. Power flowed through his body like lava, and his body temperature rose to a level that is terrifying for humans. What is different from last time is that this time Yuan Kangta controls this power clearly. There is no other reason. This time he is more powerful than the last time. The ice lotus in his dantian is constantly rotating to prevent his master from dying under this tyrannical flame. At this moment, Minamoto Soda polished his sword power to the extreme, and drew a circle of several meters around Muzen's body with the sword. At this moment, all the cuts on the thorn whip outside the circle fell to the ground neatly, melting the surrounding snowdrifts. Muzen did not dodge the fatal arc of the knife. The blade cut into Muzen's body without any unexpected obstruction. However, after the blade passed by, Muzen's flesh and blood surged several times and immediately returned to its original state. Muzen, who had been stabbed by Gensoda, did not suffer much damage. After countless years of experiments and growth in strength, Muzen had already reached the terrifying ability to recover instantly. Even though he felt pain that he had not felt for more than 10 years, these injuries were still like crawling ants to him. But a touch of fear crept into his heart. This flame that could destroy extremely evil reminded him once again of the encounter 500 years ago. Muzen's face began to change continuously for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, he had not encountered such a terrifying swordsman again. It had been so long that he had forgotten the fear that was engraved deep in his cells and passed down with division. At this moment, Muzen already wanted to quit. He looked up at the clouds to the east and found a ray of light about to break through the gray fog and reach the sky. Yes, the sun will rise soon. It's not that I can't take down this brat. I still have subordinates who can do this for me. So what if I save his life first? Muzen made up his mind, not because he was afraid of Gensoda's strength, but because as a king of ghosts, he had many subordinates who could cut off this brat's head for him, so why should he risk it himself? What's more, although this experiment has not been completed, but... Glancing at the frozen blood on the ground, a cruel smile appeared on Muzen's lips. I wonder what this young man will choose. Will he kill her in front of their family? This should be a very interesting story. It's a pity that Muzen no longer has time to listen. But some people didn't think so. Gensoda, who retreated from the attack, stood still and didn't move. It wasn't because he saw how difficult Muzen was to kill that he had any intention of giving up. Rather, he seemed to sense something from the knife, the ethereal beating of his heart, and the vague itching feeling in his chest, as if something was about to come out. And where Yuan Kangta couldn't see it, as his heart roared like a war drum, a strange pattern appeared on his chest, like a peerless painter drawing a pattern. A coquettish lotus flower appeared on Minamoto Soda's chest. Each petal was composed of different colors. In the middle of the lotus flower, a spark like lava occupied it. As the temperature of Minamoto Soda's body increased, the pattern spread to Minamoto Soda's whole body, and a fiery red pattern like a lotus appeared on his forehead, which looked particularly dazzling. Yuan Soda closed his eyes gently and felt the changes in his body's strength. It seemed that something different had happened. He felt a vigorous force flowing in his blood vessels. It seemed that what was flowing in his body was not blood but lava-like destructive power. His pupils turned into a fiery red at this moment, like the ancestor of Zhu Rong in the myth. Muzen couldn't help but frown when he saw Yuan Kangtai's change. This aura, this power, could it be said that a character like Genichi Sukuni has appeared again? Muzen stared at the strange lines on Yuan Zhangtai's head. Panic, nervousness, and various complex emotions instantly occupied his entire thoughts. In hundreds of years, in his long life, he has not seen a swordsman who can activate markings for more than 300 years. Could it be said that Gensoda is the destined son of this generation? Everywhere in his body began to tremble uncomfortably, and he remembered the nightmare of that day again. At this time, Minamoto Soda had adapted to the changes in his body. Although he didn't know the name Ziba, he knew that his body seemed to have undergone extraordinary changes. This state is even more powerful than normal breathing. Gensoda stretched out his hand and pressed the handle of the knife. At this moment, white smoke appeared all around the place where he stood, and the intense temperature melted the surrounding snowflakes. The breath of fire merged into the realm created by Gensoda. At this moment, the world in Gensoda's eyes seemed to be still. The rising mist seemed to be still in the air, allowing him to easily feel the temperature in it. It can't be delayed any longer. This is Gensoda's only thought now. Whether it was the initial mixed realm or the peerless sword after triggering the sky thunder, he consumed a lot of physical strength. After all, he was not facing an ordinary evil ghost. He didn't dare to use those ordinary moves like Breath of Water and Breath of Speed, for fear that Muzan would find a chance to seriously injure him with a single blow. What's more, the Breath of Fire consumes physical strength, and he felt that the striped state did not last that long when he turned on it for the first time. At this moment, Minamoto Soda mobilized all his strength for this blow, and he was ready to risk his life and deliver a fatal blow to Muzan before his current state fell significantly. Cut the fastest and most lethal knife. After all, Gensoda glanced at the clouds that were slightly glowing. The advantage lies with him. As long as he can wait until the sun rises and prevent Muzan from actually fighting him, he will win this encounter. Breath of Fire, Burning Ice and Soul Breaking. The red fire light kept flashing on the Nichiren blades, and the fire dragon, which symbolized the extreme temperature, appeared again. Then, I want to see if you are really immortal. A thick fire dragon continued to move forward with Gensoda's Nichiren blades, pulling a beautiful line of fire in the air. This was a manifestation of Gensoda's extreme speed. With a click, Minamoto Soda's right hand bent unconsciously, as if he had to pay the price to complete this sword. Just like the warrior who wielded the dragon-slaying sword must use his blood to open the weapon that can slay the dragon. And all of this happened in the blink of an eye. Minamoto Soda was half kneeling on the ground, with Nichiren blades leaning on the ground. His knife really hit Muzan's head, but it was not as he imagined. The head flew up. Muzan had a slightly frightened look on his face. This knife is really powerful. If he hadn't been the ancestor who had already broken through the boundaries, he might have been beheaded by this sword. However, he had already changed his body into a monster. With multiple hearts and brains, he was in a truly immortal state. But, Muzan glanced at the sun that was about to rise. We can't wait any longer. Muzan's blood-red pupils were full of hatred. Gensoda, you must die in my hands. Then with a wave of his hand, a powerful wave rushed straight towards Gensoda on the ground, and then the figure disappeared in an instant. Vampire art black blood trichosanthas. Several python-sized thorns with barbs came towards Gensoda. Out of strength, he used Nichiren blades to draw a very standard ring of fire in front of him and cut off the thorns one by one. He lifted Nichiren blades off the ground and struggled to stand up. Seeing Muzan's disappearing figure and the newborn sunshine in the sky, Gensoda finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just like a floodgate that cannot be closed, the speed of Yuan Kangtai's vigorous heart beating like a war drum slowly slowed down. The strange markings on his body slowly disappeared at this moment, but the coquettish lotus flower on his chest was still in full bloom. Telling about Yuan Soda's huge gains this time. By the way, we need to see how the people in the house are doing. Gensoda slapped his forehead and suddenly thought that there were innocent people in the house. He struggled to drag his heavy body and limped toward the house. At this time, Tanjiro, who had exhausted all his strength, finally rushed home. Looking at the huge crater at the door that looks like a meteorite falling, and the damage like broken walls and ruins everywhere, it tells that a battle like a world war took place in this place. Tanjiro's eyes were now focused on a pool of slightly dried blood. His pupils suddenly widened, and the anxious look on his face was incomparable. Mom. Miduzi. Rika, what's wrong with you? Tanjiro ran anxiously to the house and saw an unforgettable scene. An unusually young man, no, a boy, was pressing his knee against a girl's back, and grabbed the girl's two jade lotus-like arms with his strong hands. His face was full of helplessness. Surrounded by Tanjiro's mother and his younger brothers and sisters were the same anxious faces as Tanjiro. You. Who are you? Tanjiro shouted. His round eyes seemed to frighten this unknown boy. Why are you pressing on Miduzi? I will fight with you. In his anxiety, Tanjiro did not see the expressions of his family and thought that Gensoda was a robber who went up the mountain to rob, and that his mother and brother were being coerced. Tanjiro, no, the woman wearing a purple Ikimatsu pattern kimono jacket said. This is the benefactor who saved us. Kamado's face was filled with tears, and she was relieved to see her son return safely. She quickly stood up and pulled Tanjiro and asked him to sit next to her. Only then did Tanjiro wake up and look at the boy pressing on Yadozi. Only then did he discover something he hadn't seen just now. Miduzi's body seemed to have grown a bit bigger, and her eyes had no pupils and were all frighteningly white. 2 long fangs sprouted from her mouth, as if possessed by an evil spirit. Miduzi, what's wrong with you? Tanjiro's face once again showed an anxious look. At this time, Gensoda, who was pressing on Miduzi, spoke up, "Is this your sister?" She was attacked by an evil ghost and was assimilated into an evil ghost. I hope you are mentally prepared. There was also a hint of helplessness in Minamoto Soda's tone. It was not his fault. When he just entered the house, he found that the girl who had lost too much blood was pressing on Kamado Aoi, trying to bite her. Fortunately, his quick eyesight and hands quickly suppressed the girl named Miduzi. Just when he wanted to cut off her head, he was blocked by the others. Gensoda, who originally didn't want to argue with them about the horror of evil spirits, finally relented when he saw the whole family's pleading eyes. In the end, he just pressed the girl under him to prevent her from moving. Fortunately, the evil spirit seems to have just mutated and is not too powerful. This is what Tanjiro saw when he entered. At this time, Kamado Aoi explained to Tanjiro what happened during this period, and told him that thanks to Minamoto Soda, they were able to survive, and asked him to be polite to Mr. Minamoto. After hearing this, Tanjiro, who looked anxious, bowed to Gensoda without saying a word. "I'm sorry, Mr. Gen, I was rude just now. I would like to express my gratitude to you on behalf of my whole family." Gensoda wiped his nose with one hand and could only accept this gift. He had no choice but to control Yadozi so that she could not hurt others, so he could not stop Tanjiro's movements. This is what I should do as a ghost hunter. Get up quickly. Tanjiro, who had a reddish forehead and had tears on his face, said, "Everyone actually experienced such a horrific thing while I was sleeping on the mountainside. Everyone must have been frightened." The bewildered children sitting beside him all shook their heads. They did not agree with Tanjiro's words. Brother came down the mountain to make money to support the family. We don't blame him, and Brother Yuan saved us, so you don't have to feel guilty. A little girl with neatly cut short hair said timidly. Ahem. Yuan Kangta coughed lightly, gathering everyone's attention. He looked around, his voice carrying a hint of solemnity. Then you should be mentally prepared now. Your daughter has turned into an evil ghost. You just saw it. She tried to attack you, so she must. Gensoda sighed. Even though he had killed countless ghosts, he couldn't bear to let his family watch his child die. If you can't accept it, I can take her to a place where you can't see her. The little ones in the room couldn't understand what Gensoda meant, but the 2 adults understood it. Kamado Hanako straightened up. She was the eldest child of the Kamado family. With tears in her eyes, she bowed to Minamoto Soda. "Mr. Minamoto, is there really no other way?" Yadoko. She didn't hurt her. Someone else. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.